Hey everyone, I'm Jason, and today I'm going to take a 10-year-old RAID card, install it in a 10-year-old server with some 10-year-old hard drives, and see if I can compete with today's SSDs. Next on Low Res DIY. Alright, so here's the H700i that we're going to install today. This guy came with 512 megabytes of RAM installed on it. The seller included a battery and a pair of SAS cables, but these guys ended up being too short for this machine, so I had to get on Amazon and find a pair of cables, and this is what I ended up finding. It's a product number in case you want to buy a set also. I'll have links for all of this in the description in case you're interested. To go along with that, I bought another set of 600 gigabyte SAS hard drives, and I bought a pair of Kingston SSDs. These are just 240 gigabytes a piece. So with that, oh, one more thing. If you end up buying something like this card used, a lot of these guys are multiple years old, and they're in systems that were meant to run 24/7. So it would be a good idea to pop the heatsink off and clean up the old thermal paste and reapply some new thermal paste. It's pretty easy to take off on this model. It's just a matter of pressing this little wire down, and then you pull it off to the side, and then you can just lift it up, and the whole thing, give it a little twist normally, and it'll all come off. I've already applied some to this, so I really don't want to take it off and risk smearing it all over the place. So with that, let's get it installed. Okay, so here, this guy right here is the PERC 6i that we're going to replace. You can see it has a, this is the battery cable. It runs down towards the outside of the server case. It's held down by a little clip right here, so we're going to have to pop it out of that, but it runs along underneath the fan tray. And underneath the fan tray, and it's up here in the front of the system. So, and then we have the SAS cables, which also run to the opposite side of the server tray through this little groove right here, and they also run under the fan tray, and they connect up to the backplane up here. So the first thing we're going to have to do is remove this fan tray, get it out of the way. It's just a matter of unplugging all the wires from the motherboard, and then we have these two levers right here. We just need to flip them up and pull the thing up, and the whole thing comes out. So let's go ahead and pull the battery cable out. There's just a little clip right here that needs to be pressed towards the front of the machine, and you can pop it straight out. Kind of spread that clip apart. Let's get this cable out of the way because it's routed underneath it. Just lift it up, and the battery should pop right out. We'll set this off to the side. And let's go ahead and take the SAS cables out now. These guys here, there's a set of blue buttons on both sides of it. Just a matter of pressing in on them and pulling out, and the cable will come out. Both of them. Now they're routed. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a card right here, and they are routed over the RAID controller and then under this card that runs along here. So we're just going to sneak it through the side if we can, just like that. Pop it up out of the little groove. All we need to do is press down on the tab and lift up for both of them. This is the little tab right here. You just press down on it, and then you can pull the cable right out. And then it's just a matter of getting the RAID controller out. So it's held in place by these two plastic pieces here. You just push out on them, slide the card backwards, and once it's free of the PCI-C slot, you can just still push this blue tab over, lift it up, and the card will come right out. So to install the i7 or H700i, well, first you need to realize that these slots, they're marked A and B, which correspond to the connection on the back plane. A is up here, B is up here. So we need to make sure we get the cables routed in a manner that we know which one is which. And we're going to go ahead and do that before we put the card in, because I want the cables to run in between the motherboard and the new RAID controller. So we'll just go ahead, pop that guy in. There is a little plastic piece back here, like a little guide, that you need to get the wire behind, and that'll keep the cable out of the way of the fan tray when we reinstall it. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of trouble getting that fan tray in right there. So slide it into the groove, back down under that PCI E card right there. And the second one, same thing. Let's get it back behind that little corner piece, through the groove, under the cable, and let it sit down right there. And we might as well go ahead and put the battery in while we're. So it's just simply putting it into place of the old one under the cable, run it down along the case, and snap it into a little clip here. Maybe. There we go. And set it off to the side also. Okay, so to put the card in, it's just the opposite procedure. Put it in the groove on this side, slide the blue tab over, drop it into place, snap it in, and it's just that easy. So let's get our cables connected. The top cable goes to A, so we'll follow him along. Which one is it? So this is the top cable, connect it to A, and we'll connect B. All right, so next the battery. Giving me a little trouble. There we go. Felt to snap in that time. Just kind of push the cable down out of the way. Okay, let's make sure all our cables are behind these plastic clips, and we'll reinstall the fan tray. Just slides back in and clamp it down. Now it's just a matter of reconnecting the power cables. Okay, with that done, let's put the lid back on. Oops. And we'll start this guy up. All right, looks like we're getting a an error on the front panel. If we can see what it says. I've swapped these guys around, the cards in and out a couple times now. It seems like every time I get a little something like that, it's because the cables are loose, or I didn't get them connected solidly enough. So I'm just going to turn this guy off, pop the top, and just jiggle the cables a little bit and see if we can get anything out of that. I'm also going to disconnect it from the power completely, let it power down, power back up. All right, so cables are plugged back in. It went through its initial little boot process. I'm sure I'm going to have to relog back into the iDRAC. It's probably going to take it a few minutes since I killed the power completely. Okay, once the RAID array configuration comes up, we want to hit Control R and go into its BIOS. And what we're going to do is go up to the PERC H700. We're going to click F2, and we want to go down to Foreign Configuration, and we want to import it. And all that is the configurations that we created with the PERC 6i. So they're in there now, and we can go ahead and hit Escape to get out of it. It's going to want us to restart the machine by hitting Control Alt Delete, and we're going to have to sit back and wait now. All right, once the option comes up to log into the iDRAC to change its settings, we're going to want to start kind of spamming F8 because we want to go into safe mode, Windows safe mode, because if you let it load into Windows, it's not going to have the drivers to run the H700i RAID controller. So it's just going to sit there and it's going to boot loop and boot loop and boot loop. So if we can get into safe mode, it will automatically update the drivers. We can restart the machine and Windows will run fine then. All right, I'm going to start hitting F8. Oh, got another error. Shut him down. Let's see if it tries to restart. All right, it doesn't look like it's going to try to restart. So I'm going to lift the lid again and disconnect the SAS wires from the back plane and then reconnect them. I don't know if you could tell from that view, but all I did was unplug and replug the SAS cables in. Now we're going to have to, and I disconnected the power completely. So now we're going to have to wait for it to go through its startup process, reconnect to the iDRAC system, and try it again. Okay, looks like I didn't get it to go into safe mode. So it's going to reboot now. We'll try it again. There we go. That's what we were waiting for. The reason that it was boot looping and crashing and then rebooting was because, not because of the card or the system or anything, it was because of Windows. Windows does not have the drivers to run the H7 card right now. It was set up for the PERC 6i. So what we're going to have to do is let it go through its diagnostics, go into a repair, and we want to boot into safe mode. And that will basically force it to get the proper drivers to run the H700 card. Let's see, restart. All right, so now we're gonna have to restart it again. It should boot up with the option for safe mode, and then we'll go into that. Okay, let's go. Let's go ahead and go with option 5. Just in case it doesn't have it on the doesn't have the drivers on the machine, we can go out to the internet, find them, and install them. All right, this is all we should have to do. Let's well, we'll give it a second to finish whatever it's doing. Then we're going to reboot the system. It should go into Windows 10 and be perfectly fine, or operational, I guess. Took us a little bit, but we got there. I changed the display just so I have a larger area to view. All right, so let's run Crystal Disk and see if we got any improvements over the PERC 6i. All right, so slide this guy over here. Let's compare that to what we originally got with the PERC 6i. We got 139.8 on sequential and 762 with the H700 and the 2 extra hard drives. So we're talking 6.5 times better than the way the machine was originally set up for sequential, and 3 times, around almost 3 times better than the way the machine was originally set up. So for spending, what was it, $40 for the RAID controller and $28 a piece for the hard drives, and they came with the tray caddies, so I thought that was a pretty good deal. $100, we've increased the speed of the hard drives quite a bit. So let's see what the SSDs do. I think they'll do better, but not much. All right, that guy's finished up, and it looks like, well, it looks like he's exactly the same as what we had before. So while reviewing the video, I noticed a couple things. I noticed that, one, while installing the RAID card in the system, I didn't have the power disconnected. I highly recommend that if you're going to do something like this, you unplug the cord from the wall and try not to electrocute yourself. The second thing was that I was having difficulty getting into safe mode by pressing F8. After thinking about it for a while, I think what was going on was the system wasn't getting far enough along to even recognize the F8 command. It needed to boot loop a couple times to repair itself, or realize that it couldn't load the operating system the way it needed to before it went into its own repair state. I think if I would have just left it alone, we would have got there eventually, probably a lot quicker. And one other thing I wanted to point out was, okay, so this system, it's probably 10 years old. The 2 additional hard drives I grabbed for it, they're probably 10 years old also. The RAID controller, probably in the same age range. And I paid an extra $100 to get the speed of whatever it ended up being, between 700 and 750 megabytes per second. Well, your average SSD gets around 500 megabytes, 550 megabytes per second. And we're doing that on 10-year-old equipment, and we've got 2 terabytes of storage on those things. Well, if we go over here and we look at Amazon, and you pick any one of these 2 terabyte SSDs, and you're around the $200 range. I've only got 270 bucks in that whole thing, and we're up and running, ready to do something right now. So I think it's worth looking into. At the very least, it's worth looking into. So that's it for now. Hit that subscribe button, like it if you liked it, and thanks for watching.